Good evening, everybody. Good evening. And welcome to the Barn Theatre. It's lovely to see smiley faces here, and I'm sure that at home, where you're sitting on your couch or in your bed, there are smiley faces there as well. Now, my name is Mags, and I'm going to give you a chat tonight on Christmas. And you will see as we sort of progress through this that Christmas really isn't my favourite time, but I'm getting ready for Christmas because my credit card's cracked and my freezer is packed because I started my shopping in May. Christmas is celebrated once a year on December the 25th, the supposed date that a baby was born in Bethlehem. A baby who was Son of Christ and who was put on earth to save us all from sin and make us love God and his Father and, well, for all of us to love each other. And that is about as basic as I'm going to get for this evening on the religious bit. And it's really the only reference to any religious aspect. We're going to concentrate on the usual and traditional aspect of Christmas. But of course, I'm going to have to say a word on the fact that this Christmas, last Christmas, is not the same as the Christmases we've known. And this talk I have been doing since 2014. And I could have sat and I could have altered it all to match the Christmases that we had last year and we had this year. But I thought, no, I bloody won't, because we will be going back to the Christmases that we had before. And this chat with you tonight reflects on our traditional Christmases. So, why do we celebrate Christmas on the 25th of December? Now, the first recorded date of Christmas being celebrated on that day was in 336 AD, during the time of the first Christian Roman Emperor, Constantine. Now, a few years later, Pope Julius I officially declared that from then on, the official date of the birth of Jesus would be celebrated on the 25th of December. Though as my grandson, who's 8, told me the other day that I think it should be March, Nana Mags. And I said, really? And he went on, and I will explain here, that there are many different traditions and theories as to why Christmas is celebrated on December the 25th. A very early Christian tradition says that Mary was told on March the 25th that she would have a very special baby, Jesus. And that day is called, and it's still called, the Annunciation. Is that a lovely word? Let's say it again, Annunciation. And it's still celebrated today on March the 25th. And so, 9 months on from March the 25th gets us to December the 25th. Also, December the 25th might have been chosen because the winter solstice and the ancient pagan Roman midwinter festivals took place in December. So it was a time when people already celebrated things, and it would seem a good reason to, hey, why not? Let's lump all the festivities and the celebrations together. And a sort of good idea because it saves getting all the tinsel out of the cupboard one day and then putting it away, and then a few days later getting that and the lights and everything out again. Let's all do it all on one day, and let's choose December the 25th. So we're going to prepare for Christmas. And to remind ourselves here that Christmas is one day, just the one day. And I'm going to run through the sort of preparations list here to make a point about the one day. So a quick look. Christmas cakes are made in many households across the UK in late September, early October. So thinking and doing for the one day starts almost 90 days before, to include the shopping for the ingredients, the preparation, And let's say, well, a day and a half, nearly 2 days to make the cake. Gifts are purchased by many, and that's including me, throughout the year, ready for the 25th of December. So let's say we think about and do a purchase once a month from the previous Christmas day. So that's another 12 days. And I'm very in the dark here. Christmas days and cards, Christmas cards, are purchased and written and sent within 3 weeks previous to the 20th of December. So let's say purchasing and writing them is 3 days. Oh, and incidentally, when I used to teach evenings at Isha College, children, drama, I came out one for a break from them, the teenagers. I thought, I've got to give myself 10 minutes break from teenagers. And there was a mum who'd come to meet her kiddie, and she's sitting writing her Christmas cards. And I said to her, oh, that's a very good way of utilising your time. And she said, I only ever write them every other year. I said, pardon? She said, yes. She said, I didn't send anybody any last year. She said, and this year is the year I'm sending them. And I said, don't they notice? She said, no. She said, I even get people come up and thank me for my Christmas card that they didn't get. So let's say 4 days planning and shopping for the food that will be consumed on the one day. Now, Christmas tree. Let's say 1 whole day for purchasing it. Well, we've got to choose the right one. So, and my husband used to work at Garson's farm, and on the days before Christmas when people choosing their trees, parents, bless their heart, would leave the decision to the tree to their 3 or 4 or 5 or 6-year-old. So it would have meant getting it out the netting, spraying all the things up, and what do you think of this, Charles? Do you like this tree? Oh, no, Mummy, I don't like the tree. Oh, well, look at that one there. And sometimes they could go through 4 trees before their child decided that was the one they wanted. So after bringing it home, we must climb into the loft or under the stairs or the back of the garage for the tree decorations. And we've got to test the Christmas lights to see if they are working. Now, in Victorian times, trees were decorated with lit candles, dangerous, and home-cooked biscuits hung on ribbons, mouldy. And it wasn't until 1880 that a new shop called Woolworths sold the first manufactured Christmas tree lights and the first publicly electrically lit tree appeared in 1882, and this was on the east side of Manhattan in New York. Around 6 million trees are sold in Britain each year, of which the Forestry Commission supplies 100,000. Last year, they planted 150,000 trees, real Christmas trees. About half were noble fir, which is the best Christmas tree for holding its needles. And growing times for our real Christmas trees are pine, 5 years, spruce, 7 years, noble fir, 10 years, and between 100 and 150 million trees and families in Europe will put up a real Christmas tree. That's a lot of families. So, by the way of a recent survey, tells us a little about ourselves on the kind of lights we choose to have in our home after Christmas. And I do hope none of this actually refers to yourselves. Now, if you've got blinking lights, you have an attention deficit disorder. If you've got all red lights, you wished you lived in a department store. And multicoloured blinking lights, well, obviously you're an extrovert. And all white lights, you probably ask people to remove their shoes before entering your house. I use all those lights. So that would make me a department store junkie, harbouring an attention-seeking deficit disorder, accompanied by excruciating moments of extrovertism, living in an all-white carpeted house which has rendered me with an obsessive-compulsive disorder. Anyway, I reckon 2 whole days for the tree on and off, and let's blame Albert for the hilarious idea of killing a live tree and putting it up in the middle of your living room. So we must also add 2 days for decorating the tree and decorating the house with holly, Father Christmas figures, lanterns, etc. And we must sort out the house. Dread for visitors who are going to come. Okay. And especially, oh God, people who are coming to actually stay. They're going to be staying overnight, even maybe longer. And we should add here the possibility of redecorating the guest room. So 3 days for that. Oh, and not to forget the wrapping of the presents, Christmas gifts. So I'm giving that 4 days. And how many people here use their ironing board as the gift wrapping table? No? Oh, you see, you needed to come here tonight just for that bit of information, because you can set the ironing board at a height that doesn't kill your bloody back while you're wrapping up the presents. So use your ironing board. And on the build up to Christmas, we are continually looking through our diaries. And what are we looking through our diaries for? To make sure that we can get in a drink, a meal, a tea, or something with people before Christmas Day, notwithstanding that we've been seeing those people all back through the year. But we've got to get them into the diary for that special event. So, I'm having very difficulty seeing here because it's very dark. It was Christmas Eve on a Friday, and the shops were full of cheer, with tinsel in the windows and presents twice as dear, and 1,000 Father Christmases sat in their little huts. And folks were buying crackers, and folks were buying nuts. Before the lights were snuffed, lots of turkeys, they got murdered. And their insides, they got stuffed. And lots of Christmas cakes got marzipaned, and fruit puddings, they got steamed. Meanwhile, mothers, they got desperate as their darling kiddies screamed. Out in the frozen countryside, men crept round on their own, hacking off the holly what other folk had grown. And mistletoe on willow uses was by a man wrenched clear so that he could snog his neighbour's wife that he'd fancied all the year. And out upon the hillside where the Christmas trees had stood, all was completely barren, but for little stumps of wood. The little trees that flourished all the year were there no more, but in 1,000,000 houses dropped their needles on the floor. The church was standing empty. The pub was standing packed. There was a yell, Noel, Noel, and the glasses, they got cracked. From up above the fireplace, Christmas cards began to fall, and trodden on the floor said, Merry Christmas to you all, Pamez. And so adding up all the days, we have a ballpark figure of 33 days so far of getting the stuff ready for the one day. So that leaves us 332 days in the year when Christmas, not even on our radar. Or is it? So let's add into the equation some of the other stuff, namely the aftermath. If Christmas wasn't bad enough, then it's followed by the aftermath. Boxing Day, I call this the Day of Relief Day. Well, the heat is off a little bit. And frankly, I enjoy my Boxing Day dinner much more than I do my Christmas Day dinner. And traditionally, this Boxing holiday developed because servants were required to work on Christmas Day, but took the following day off. And as servants prepared to leave to visit their families, their employers would present them with little gift boxes. And another theory is that the alms boxes placed in churches where parishioners deposited coins throughout the year for the poor were opened and the contents distributed to the poor. So, on this day, Boxing Day, we can calm down a bit. Only another dinner and another tea, a nice walk, watch the telly and doze off. And don't you always find when you've slaved over a hot stove Christmas Day and you've slaved over a table and you've got everybody this and everybody that, and then you're out there and usually alone washing up while everybody's in another room in the house enjoying themselves, and you finally put everything away and it's in the cupboard and you think, bloody hell, thank God for that. You go into one of these other rooms and casually say, anybody like a cup of tea? And every bugger puts their hands up. So, the following day is the 27th of December. And hopefully, people who've stayed with us, hurrah, go home. So, let's give ourselves 2 days for the clearing up after them. And we've now arrived at the 30th of December. Now, we must bear in mind that there is a traditional 12 days of Christmas. And starting, of course, on the 25th, and so finishing on the 6th of January. So I'm adding on another 7 days to get us to the 6th of January from the 30th for all the final bits and bobs that one day has left us with. And I've not included New Year's Eve here. I mean, we could be here for hours if we go through New Year's Eve. So the grand total is 40 days thinking and planning and working out for that one day. And incidentally, an article I read recently stated that due to research carried out by an analyst, shoppers now start thinking about their Christmas shopping in mid-August. And they do that by the amount of people that start buying Christmassy gifts on Amazon. So now, okay, 40 days, 44 days, all sorted, 1 day, so now we've got to get ready. Now, the first thing on that 40 days preparation was what? What did we start off with? That we made end of September, beginning of October. Cake. Hate Christmas cake. Gives me terrible indigestion. I made a Christmas cake once. It looked very successful. Put it in the tin, sealed it, ready for Christmas Day. Well, Christmas Eve to decorate it. Took it out, it was covered in mould. I'd put it in the tin while it was still warm. So no Christmas, I just threw the whole lot out into the garden for the birds. Okay, we're making the Christmas cake. We need, hang on. This is real, by the way. We need a cup of water and a cup of sugar, 4 large eggs, 3 cups of dried fruit, teaspoon of baking soda, teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of brown sugar, lemon juice, nuts, and a bottle of whiskey. Sample the whiskey to check for the quality. Take out a large bowl. Check the whiskey again to make sure that it is of the highest quality. So pour 1 level cup and drink. Turn off the electric mixer. Beat 1 cup of butter in a large fluffy bowl. Add 1 teaspoon sugar and beat again. And make sure the whiskey's still okay. Cry another cup and turn off the mixer. Break 10 grapes and add to the bowl and chuck the cup in of the fruit dried. Yes. Mix on the burner. If the fried dough gets stuck in the reaches, pry it loose with a screwdriver. Sample the whiskey to check for the toxic. Try the whiskey. Next, sift and add 4 cups of salt. Check the whiskey. Now, sift the lemon loose and very gently strain your nuts. Add 1 tablespoon of soaking powder. Grease and line the oven. Turn on the cake tin to 550 degrees, and don't forget to beat the burner. Then go and lie down somewhere in the room, and I hope that that all helps. Or buy a cake from Marks and Spencer's. Now, a few Christmas statistics. Last Christmas, well, I say last Christmas, it wasn't last Christmas, probably the Christmas before, the UK consumed approximately, poor little things, 10 million turkeys. It's estimated that 22 billion is spent by UK households at Christmas, with the average household spending £836. Of this, £161 is thought to go on food and drink. Now you can see I wrote this in 2014 because I think to get away with £161 for the food, the drink, the gifts, the cards, the trees and the decorations, blimey. Nah. Now a survey has revealed that British women do not attempt their first Christmas lunch until the age of 34. Now, nearly half of those women polled said that they felt a real sense of achievement. I don't know why. And when finally dishing up the Christmas dinner, and 28% of British men admit that their partner's dinner is better than their mother's. Now, don't go, oh, because 28% is a pretty low average. Christmas cards. The first greeting card was created and sent in 1843, and created by John Calcott Hursley for his friend, Sir Henry Cole, two people we've never heard of, who gave him the idea. And the first card depicted 3 generations of a family raising a glass to charitable institutions. And of course, that brings to mind, it was Christmas Day in the workhouse. Right, have you ever read that poem all the way through? Well, if you go on YouTube, you'll see, oh, what was that Irish person who died? Oh, he sang, oh, God. Oh, I've forgotten. It'll come back to me, but I'll tell you. But there is a very, very rude version of It Was Christmas Day in the Workhouse, and it's really worth looking at. I remember his name. Anyway, one of Henry's first Christmas cards sent to his grandmother was sold about 10 years ago for £22,500. £22,500. And with the outset of the postal service and the penny post, card sending at Christmas became very popular. And the Greetings Card Association estimates that a total of around 900 million cards were sold in 2012, worth around £364 million. And also, 200,000 children sent Santa mail each year. And the Royal Mail responds to every single one of them with a greeting card. Now, of course, those stats might very well have changed now with the advent of email cards. How many of you here send those email cards? Yeah? How many of you here still send Christmas cards? Everybody. That's lovely. Now, oh yes, now I might be upsetting a few people here, and I might be upsetting a few people at home, but I don't care, because it's Christmas. I don't care. How many people here have received round-robin letters in their Christmas cards? No? Well, you've missed a treat. Well, how many of them actually send them? You know what I mean by a round-robin letter, don't you? Yes. You open an innocent-looking Christmas card, and out falls several pages of computer-written missive about talented children, wonderful holidays, new conservatories, Yeah. Now you know what I mean. And dazzling success at work. The majority of these letters are sent by people the recipients have not seen for bloody years. Right? Okay. For example, someone they met briefly on holiday and exchanged addresses. Why? And have sent you one every Christmas since. And I've received a few over the years. Now, I've composed one of these letters, very tongue-in-cheek. And I've included some actual sentences which were actually in the round-robin letters I've received. So it's up to you to guess which one. It's not going to be an examination. I'm not going to ask you. So to those of you who've never received one, you'll see what I mean. And to those of you who write them, it'll give you some ideas. And to those of you who get them already, well, what a shame. Anyway, I might have to put my glasses on here because my dress is dazzling across the is it dazzling in your, I should have put it on back to front. Right, okay. This is a round-robin letter. Dear John and Jane, where has 2014 gone? Our house and garden are looking spectacular this year. We enclosed 27 photographs. We consider ourselves so lucky in finding 3 excellent gardeners who tell us it is a joy to work in our garden. And the uninterrupted views across the Surrey Hills continue to give us such pleasure. The interior design company were humbled when we chose to employ them, and as we sit here composing this letter in our beautiful lounge, we rejoice in our decision. Our son, Benedict, has grown up into a delightful young man. He, of course, gained a first at Oxford, and his degree in French medieval history will open so many doors. He has embraced and excels in the French language, also in medieval Latin. So you can imagine how satisfied we were when he told us that he'd been headhunted by the United Nations Special Envoy to the French government. His future is looking exceptionally bright. Our cup overfloweth this year when we announce the engagement of our daughter Gwendolyn. Her fiancé, Julian, is a very handsome, fine young man working hard in the family business, designing and building luxury yachts. We were fortunate enough to be invited to their home in Monaco, and we were unashamedly made aware that they were overjoyed at their son's choice of bride and family. Yes, Julian will be a delightful addition to the family. There has been some very sad news this year. Unfortunately, our beautiful Dutch barge hound, Dreyfus the Magnificent, failed to get best in show at Crufts. We were devastated. We did have to put on a brave face and stir ourselves not long after this mystifying failure and make the effort to attend the Lord Lieutenant of Surrey's inauguration ceremony. We had been introduced to her briefly, a charming one, at a charity function earlier this year, and we knew that she would have been so disappointed if we'd not attended. We hope all is well with your family. We have not heard from you for quite a while, so we do hope that our news reaches you at the usual Brixton address. Merry Christmas, Nigel and Barbara. There you are, you see. I won't tell you which sentences. Oh yes, a few little notes. We have a family tradition, family Christmas tradition in our house. My mother-in-law has come round to the house for Christmas for the last 12 years. But this year, we're going to break with tradition. We're going to let her in. And there is nothing sadder. Now there is nothing sadder than to wake up on Christmas morning and not be a child. Now then, for those of us who did work, have worked, will work, here is a little thing I'm going to read you that was issued by HR to everybody who's thinking of having a Christmas do. Notice is hereby given. Please be advised that all employees planning to dash through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, going over the fields and laughing all the way, are required to undergo a risk assessment addressing the safety of open sleighs. This assessment must also consider whether it is appropriate to use only one horse for such a venture, particularly where there are multiple passengers. And please note that permission must be also obtained in writing from landowners before their fields may be entered. And to avoid offending those not participating in these celebrations, we request that laughter is moderate only and not loud enough to be considered a noise nuisance. Benches, stools and orthopaedic chairs are now available for collection by any shepherds planning or required to watch their flocks at night. While provision has been made for remote monitoring of flocks by CCTV cameras from a centrally heated shepherd observation hut, all facility users are reminded that an emergency response plan must be submitted to account for known risks to their flocks. Few church notices. The over 60s Christmas choir will be disbanded this autumn with thanks of the entire church. This Christmas, the church will host an evening of fine dining, super entertainment, and gracious hostility. Miss Charlotte Mason sang, "I will not pass this way again," giving obvious pleasure to the congregation. Now, don't let worry kill you off. Let the church help. Now, Christmas dinners, the traditions that dominate the modern British dinner, are not new at all. Its roots are firmly set in mid-Victorian Britain, starting in 1840, and what is the same is that, for the Victorians, Christmas food itself was a luxury item, much as it is now. Plum pudding, mince pies were fashionable in the Victorian Christmas table, and sweet chestnuts were used in ice cream, set cream, stuffings, and accompanying it for the meal. And a classic mid-Victorian meal was 3 to 5 courses, with 4 to 8 dishes in each, set on the table all at the same time, with diners choosing their favourite dishes. So there were about 40 different dishes on the table at any one time. That was for the wealthy. Now, for a less wealthy family, perhaps that of a junior clerk like Mr. Crutchins, you know what I mean. So earning as little as £100 a year in the mid-Victorian era, beef and turkey were far beyond their pockets. And the character, that's his name, Cratchit, in A Christmas Carol, would have spent a week's wages to buy the ingredients for a basic Christmas meal. And that would be 7 shillings for the goose, 5 for the pudding, and 3 for the onions, save, and oranges. Christmas is coming and the goose is getting fat. Sure to put a penny in the old man's hat. And goose was the poor man's meat. Turkey for the wealthy. Also, if in London and in the south of England, the family would start the meal with oysters. While considered a luxury for many now, oysters in Victorian London were known as the poor man's protein. So I wish you all the best in planning your Christmas dinner and your menu and writing your list and doing your shopping with this very little on the shelves and going to the shops and breaking it down and doing the cooking and da-da-da-da-da. So we won't worry about that. Mummy doesn't want a dog. Mummy says they smell. And never sit when you say sit, or even when you yell. Mummy doesn't want a dog. Mummy says they shred, and always let the strangers in and bark at friends instead. They do disagreeable things on rugs and get mud on the floor, and they flop upon your bed at night and snore their doggy snore. Mummy doesn't want a dog. She's making a mistake, because more than a dog, I think, she won't want this snake. Poinsettias. How many of you have got poinsettias at home? Yeah? The Poinsettia association with Christmas began in the 16th century in Mexico. The legend goes that a young girl from an impoverished family was too poor to give a gift to celebrate the birth of Jesus. So an angel appeared before her and told her to pick weeds and place them in front of the church altar. Crimson blossoms sprouted from the weeds and became beautiful poinsettias. And from then on, Franciscan friars in Mexico included the plants in the Christmas celebrations, and with the star-shaped leaf symbolizing the Star of Bethlehem. And in the US, there is a National Poinsettia Day, and that is on December the 12th. In 2011, Asda sold 1.3 million of them, and M&S 600,000. Now, stockings hung on fireplaces. The original St. Nicholas left his very first gifts of gold coins in the stockings of 3 poor girls who needed money for their wedding dresses. The girls had hung their stockings to dry on the mantel shelf, so he popped the money into them. Mistletoe. The origins, as you all know, are pagan. In ancient times, the Druids believed that mistletoe would bring good luck and health, although it has been used to treat some ailments, and the berries are very poisonous. Do not let young children touch the berries. And the Scandinavian goddess of love, Frigg, is strongly associated with the mistletoe. Hang it up over your front door, and the first person who willingly kisses you, you will marry. Isn't that sweet? And so to the big man himself, Father Christmas, the gift bringer, Santa Claus, St. Nicholas. We've heard of St. Nicholas and his gift of gold coins to the 3 poor girls. The story goes that he was a shy man, and he didn't want to knock on the door and hand the money over, so he climbed onto the roof and threw the coins down the chimney. And it landed in the stockings hanging on the fireplace to dry. And so there we have it, Father Christmas landing on the roof and climbing down the chimney. Very little is known about St. Nicholas for certain. All that can be said is that he probably lived in the 4th century in the Lycian port of Myra in the southwest of modern Turkey, and that he was a bishop. He died on December the 6th, and due to the usual process, was made a saint. The colours of Father Christmas are widely thought to derive from the original Saint Nicholas, because red and white were the hues of traditional bishop robes during the 12 days of Christmas. And it wasn't until the late 19th century that the image now recognised across the world became set. Between 1863 and 1886, Harper's Weekly magazine ran a series of engravings by Thomas Nast, and he developed an image of Santa very close to the modern day one. And from these engravings, the concept of Santa's workshop and the idea of writing letters to him also developed. And not forgetting Coca-Cola's investment that kicked in the early 1930s when Swedish artist Haddon Stunborn started drawing ads for Coca-Cola featuring a Santa in a red coat trimmed with fur and secured with a large belt. And his drawings were used in the company's festive advertisements. And now, to finish, Father Christmas. Now, I went years ago now to Rochester where my husband's family used to live, and they used to own nearly the whole of Rochester High Street. So I thought I'd go on a visit to my husband's ancestors and wonder where the money all went, because none of it came our way. But we went to the Dickensian Christmas Fair. Well, all I can say is don't bother. It wasn't very good. We had a sort of upset at the B&B we stayed in. We were 5 minutes away from this little B&B, and I rang the woman who owned it, and I said, oh, hello, this is Mrs. Latter. We are nearly there. And she said, I thought you were the ambulance. And I said, the ambulance? No. She said, my husband, she said, he's here. I think he's dead. I said, oh no. She said, but do come. Don't let it spoil your trip. Well, anyway, we parked and we were walking up the street and we saw this ambulance, and we saw these ambulance men sort of walking up and down as if they didn't know where to go. And I did call out, I think you need, and that was right. But well, I'll say no more. But anyway, the highlight, apart from, what's the name of that awful pub? Into the W. Yes. we had a delightful meal in Wetherspoons. And then the next day, after we'd watched this very stupid parade, we said, there's a cathedral in Rochester. Let's find it. We found the cathedral. We sat ourselves down. The service started with the Dean of Rochester Cathedral, and he read a wonderful piece. And when I got home, I rang him up and I said, oh, I liked that piece you read to us. Is there any chance I could have a copy? And lo and behold, he sent me a copy. I might have to put my glasses on because it's a bit, this is as he sent it to me, and it's a bit small. Right, okay. I'm going to say this very fast, and I might ask you questions afterwards. And I'm going to have to get very close to this because it's difficulty seeing. Right. Oh, hang on. Does Santa Claus really exist? And if he does, how does he manage the impossible task of delivering presents to the world's good little girls and boys in a single chilly December night? This question has stirred the imagination and emotion of much of the Earth's population and calls for an objective analysis. Santa's first obstacle is that no known species of reindeer can fly. Right? However, scientists estimate that out of the Earth's roughly 2 million species of living organisms, 300,000 or so have yet to be classified. So, even though most of these undiscovered species are insects and germs, we can't rule out the slight possibility that a species of flying reindeer does in fact exist, and that no one besides Santa Claus has ever seen one. Now, a bigger obstacle for Santa is that there are 2 billion children under the age of 18 in the world. At an average of 3.5 children per household, Santa has a back-breaking 92 million homes to visit on any Christmas Eve. Now, thanks to the rotation of the Earth, Santa has 31 hours of Christmas Eve darkness to visit all these homes if he travels from east to west. Unfortunately, this still works out at 800 visits per second. So, for each household, Santa has just over 1,000 of a second to land, hop out of his sleigh, jump down the chimney, fill the stockings, distribute the rest of the presents under the tree, eat whatever snacks have been left out, get back up the chimney, climb back onto the sleigh, and take off and fly to the next house. So, how fast is Santa moving? Assuming all 92 million stops are spread evenly over the Earth's landmass, Santa must travel 72,522,000 miles, or just under a mile per household. Given the 31-hour time period, Santa's sleigh must maintain an average speed of 650 miles per second, or more than 3,000 times the speed of sound. Now, let's take a closer look at Santa's vehicle. First of all, assuming a kilo of presents per child, the sleigh must be able to carry a load of 321,000 tons. And that means Santa's massive sleigh has to be drawn by 214,000 reindeers. Now, assuming they are harnessed to a breast, 6 foot from the next pair, they would create a chain approximately 121.7 miles long. As for Santa, he will be subjected to centrifugal forces 17,500 times greater than gravity and be pinned to the back of his sleigh by 4 million pounds of force. 320,000 tons of sleigh, reindeer and presents are going to create an enormous amount of air resistance, especially at 650 miles per second. This air resistance will produce so much heat that the lead pair of reindeer will absorb 14 quintillion joules of energy per second each, causing them to ignite instantly, and thereby exposing the reindeer behind them to a thermal blast. All 214,000 reindeer will be vaporized with 1/4,000th of a second and create a catastrophic thermal explosion, which only goes to prove that if Santa Claus does exist, that's extremely bad news for the world. Thank you.